Meeting. The time is 7:33. I ask that we all please rise to salute the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Here.
Here. Here.
Thank you very much, Mindy. Tonight, the Watertown Board of Education wishes to congratulate the following students from John Trumbull Primary School and Judson Elementary School for their Student of the Month achievements for September of 2014. I can't tell you how refreshing it is to look out amongst the audience and the public and see all these young, happy faces looking back at us. So I thank you for coming this evening. Dr. Cardamola?
From John Trumbull Primary School, we have Juliana Meglio in grade 2.
Juliana is a second grader in Mrs. Bortolin's class. She is a diligent student. She is always kind to other children. She shows that she is responsible on a daily basis by completing all of her work and by completing all of her schoolwork. She is a leader in all of the class discussions. Juliana, we are very proud of you. Please come forward to accept your award.
Congratulations.
Also from grade 2, we have Adam Hassinger.
Adam, if you could please come up. Adam is a second grader in Mrs. Longo's class. He is a very responsible little boy. He always follows directions and walks quietly in the halls. He is responsible in his schoolwork, and he's always ready for a new task. Congratulations, we're very proud of you.
In kindergarten, right in front of me, I see we have Riley McDonald.
Riley, please come forward. Riley is a bright, vivacious kindergartner. She does nice things for other students and has a very kind and caring heart. She follows the 3 R's by reading in the common area in the morning and listening to her teacher. Riley, we are very proud of you.
And finally, from John Trumbull Primary School, in grade 2, we have Isabella De Campo.
Isabella, please come forward. Isabella is a second grader in Mrs. Schweier's class. She comes to school prepared and ready to learn each day. She is respectful of herself and others. She accepts everyone's differences and helps all of her classmates. She is a role model in her class as well as in the school, and we are all very proud of you. This is the best part of the job.
Yeah, this
Sure
is definitely
is,
the
isn't
best one we've had so far. From Judson Elementary School, we switch now to Jason Hannes, a third grader at Judson.
Jason, please come forward. Jason is a wonderful example of, quote, living the pledge. He is such an enthusiastic learner. He tackles new challenges eagerly and with a very positive attitude. He is polite, caring, friendly, and always willing to help a classmate or a teacher. We are very proud of you, Jason. Congratulations.
Also a third grader, Sabrina Maffa.
Sabrina, please come forward. Hello. Sabrina, you are always ready to begin the day with a pleasant smile for your classmates and for your teacher. You are confident and apparently a whiz at math facts. She is respectful to teachers, adults, and your friends. She does her work conscientiously and shows her responsibility in many ways. Thank you and congratulations on such a great job. We're very proud of you. You're welcome, Sabrina.
In grade 4 from Judson, Charlotte Manalo.
Charlotte, please come forward. This student strives to do her very best work. Whether it is participating in class or assisting a classmate, she shows true character. This student perseveres. Academically, you aim for success, using clues and looking beyond the text to support your reading responses with evidence. You are responsible and complete all of your homework and all of your projects on time and with precision. And we are very proud of you, Charlotte. Congratulations.
Grade 4, Luca Maroli.
Luca, please come forward. Luca, to you, doing the right thing is important. You always make sure you understand directions before you begin your assignments. You take pride in your work, and you put your best effort forward in all the assignments. You listen closely to the classroom conversation. You participate and are very thoughtful when you're listening to other people's ideas. We're very proud of you. Congratulations.
In grade 5 from Judson, Caesar Rapiccioli.
Caesar, please come forward. This is what your teachers have to say about you. You are responsible. Your homework is done, and it is neat. That you care about the quality of the work that you turn in, and you always go the extra mile to ensure that it is your best work. You never have to ask the student to get back on task, as he automatically begins his day knowing the expectations of your teacher and the classroom. And we are extremely proud of you for that. Thank you. Congratulations.
And finally, from grade 5 at Judson, Alyssa Mertici.
Alyssa, please come forward.
May not be here. I don't think we saw her.
Well, we'll read her accomplishments. She is someone who goes out of her way to assist others and who is a model of positive attitude, someone who sets the tone in class. She quietly goes through her day being a role model. She is always respectful in everything she does and everything she says. She is engaged in her studies and also makes time to support other students. So we also congratulate Alyssa. Thank you, and congratulations to all of our students. We're going to take a very brief break just so that we can come over and personally congratulate our students in the meeting. So we are in recess for about 3 or 4 minutes. You should have received in their packets on Friday the minutes of the Board of Education regular meeting on 10/27. Please note in the agenda that was in your packet, it said October 14th. The correct date of the minutes is from October 27th. Do I have a motion for the acceptance of the regular meeting minutes?
Yes, Madam Chair. I move that the board accept the minutes of the regular Board of Education meeting from October 27th, 2014, as submitted.
Do we have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? One abstention? So moved. Moving on to item letter F, and we now come to the first round of public participation. Is there any member of the public that wishes to address the board this evening? Is there any member of the public that wishes to address the board this evening? Seeing none, we will move on to our committee reports. Mr. Nardello, do you have anything from curriculum and instruction?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nothing from curriculum and instruction tonight.
Mr. Berthel, anything to report from policy and labor?
Nothing to report this evening.
Mr. Berthel, again to you, budget and finance?
Nothing to report.
I bring it over to you, Mr. Lambert. Do we have anything to report from facilities, PBC, and operations?
Yes, Madam Chairwoman, we had our Facilities PBC Operations Committee meeting tonight at 6:30. We discussed an overview of maintenance and custodial responsibilities in our district, overview of building and facilities. We concentrated on our school security grant award. Thanks to Jill Brown, I have some figures. The overall award was $366,803 in projects. We had a 57.14% reimbursement rate, and the award after that reimbursement rate is $209,591. Projects must be completed by June 30th, 2015. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Nardello, anything from governance and community engagement?
Nothing to report tonight, Madam Chair.
Bringing it right back to you, Mr. Nardeller. Any communications to share?
At this time, there are no communications to the board, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you very much. That brings us to item letter I, Superintendent's recommendations and report.
The majority of my report this evening will be in conjunction with Janet doing the testing report, because we will go right from that into the district goals. Dovetail, obviously, with our testing report to some degree. Before I turn it over to Janet to begin the testing report, one point I'd like to bring up is some of the events that our schools did for Veterans Day. The majority of those happened today because obviously the Veterans Day holiday is tomorrow. We had a number of great things go on in the schools. At Polk, we had the American Legion come in. One of the things they did was show students how to properly fold an American flag. That went really well. Students enjoyed that. At John Trumbull, a group of teachers completed a new wall of heroes to honor veterans, and also invited all John Trumbull families to participate. We had a number of families participate in that. The entire school wrote to veterans at John Trumbull, which was a pretty big undertaking. Thank you, Mrs. Mecca. And they also participated in something they did at the high school this year also. This was the first time that I know of that we participated in something called the GI Go Dress Down, where teachers pay to dress down for Veterans Day. I believe that was today. It might have been, it's Wednesday, excuse me. On Wednesday at John Trumbull and also at the high school, they will be dressed down, and the money goes back to Veterans Affairs. So very interesting. It's about a million teachers rather nationwide who are participating in this, and we're doing it now here in Watertown also. Thank you to Mrs. Mecca for starting it. At Swift, we had a number of activities. I don't have time to even get all of them in, but long story short, Swift students had the opportunity to bring a veteran to school. They had a presentation about what Veterans Day was all about, some of the difference between Veterans Day and Memorial Day, and they interviewed veterans. They did a program, if you didn't get a chance to see it, very nice job they did on the news, the morning news at the high school to salute the veterans, and also participated in the GI Go dress down. And finally at Judson, 5th grade classes are writing letters to the veterans, and they're being delivered by one of our local agencies. I'm not positive which ones. I think it might be the VFW that's mostly helping us there. And in 4th grade, they're reading what is Veterans Day, little kind of prose that they are deciphering as part of the curriculum, and also they were breaking down into groups, almost book talk groups, to talk about that book. So across the district, we had a number of great things happen to recognize our veterans, and I thank the principals for that. I was in at least one school last week. It's a blur at this moment. I will be at John Trumbull on Thursday. I'll spend the entire day at John Trumbull on Thursday, and in the morning before the official visit starts is another one of my office hours with Dr. C for the community members and parents. Anyone who wants to come and see me on Thursday can do that between 7:30 and 9 o'clock. So even if parents at John Trumbull just want to drop by and say hello as they drop off students, I will be there in the main office. I hope that I get to see some more John Trumbull parents, although they are very easy parents for me to see because the majority of them are at the PTO meetings. And that is all from the big picture standpoint that I have for this week. So I will turn it over to Janet Parlato to do the testing report.
Good evening, everyone. This is an interesting testing report this year because we participated in the Smarter Balanced Field Test in literacy, language arts, and mathematics. Because of the way the field test was structured, no one in the state is going to receive individual student level results. And they haven't even really promised us district level results because really they were trying out the test items, testing them out to see if those items were appropriate for the various grade levels. So because we participated in that field test, we don't have specific results for language arts and mathematics, which is very unusual. Whenever you do a testing report, you usually have that. So today we'll hear about the Connecticut Mastery Test Science, which takes place in grades 5 and 8. And grade 10 Connecticut Academic Performance Test for science as well. In addition, we'll talk about the advanced placement tests that we have in the district, along with the SAT. You would have seen in your packet that much of this presentation is divided into district reference groups. And you can see on the slide the things that make up a district reference group. So in our state, in our 166 school districts, they are divided between letters A and I. And as you can see in the bullets up in front, those are the ways that the state has divided up our school districts. So they use census data. They take a look at things such as household income, occupation level, poverty level, percent of home language that is not English, and your district enrollment, and divide all those school districts up between letters A and I. And Watertown is in DIRG D, District Reference Group D, along with 23 other schools. So the last time that the district reference groups were updated was in 2006, so we expect another update in 2016. And when that happens, sometimes you either go up or down or stay the same in your district reference group. We'll begin with the Connecticut Mastery Test and the Connecticut Academic Performance Test, also known as CMT and CAPT. They are broken down into those performance levels. So when a student receives his or her scores, they are one of those performance levels. The state's guideline is that students should reach the goal level. So when we report on student achievement and student how far students have come in each of our schools, we look for the percentage of students at goal. That is the expectation from the state. We'll begin by looking at grade 5 science. So you might have remembered in previous test reports, again, we would have had reading and writing and mathematics. CMT right now is only science. If you take a look at our 24 districts in our DIRG along with the state, we scored 58.9% of our students in grade 5 at goal, which places us at number 23 out of 24 in the district. As you can see, the state average is 59.6. Overall, for us in grade 5, that was a decrease of 2.8 points from 2013. Looking at grade 8 science within DIRG D, we scored 68.3% of students at goal. That was an increase of 1 point from 2013. That placed us at 21 out of 24 districts in DIRG D, and above the state average of 62.5%. For our CAPT scores, which is given in grade 10, again, this is science, we scored a 50.9% of students at goal, which placed us at number 19 out of 24 districts in DIRG D. That was a decrease of a very slight 0.2 points from 2013. For each of the tests, I'll provide you with some of our next steps and what some of our action items are to address the ideas in each of the tests. So for CMT and CAP science, we're in a very unusual position in the state with science, and here's why. This will be, the test that the kids took this year will be the last way that CAPT and CMT will look. They're going to completely revise the test. Unfortunately, they haven't told us yet exactly what the test will look like, and they're also looking at revising the science standards. So the State Department of Education has to make a decision. Will we have Connecticut science standards that are revised, or will we go with the national science standards? They haven't given us guidance on that yet. Now, that's a little bit like shooting in the dark because we're not sure what we're preparing for. However, in order to address testing skills overall, we're looking at our whole district performance. And so as we said in our last meeting during the curriculum meeting, we're looking at our written curricula in each of the courses. So when we revise our written curricula and take a look at what exactly are we teaching, what exactly are we assessing, and how are we teaching it, that's going to help us no matter what the test looks like. Because we're making sure that we're using best practices, the most current and up-to-date ways of teaching in order to address all student skills, which will invariably be on those assessments when they decide to tell us what they'll look like. We'll also make sure that when we revise the science curricula, we take a look at the Common Core state standards in both literacy and mathematics, because those tie also in with the science curriculum and how the science is taught. In addition, we're completing assessment inventories for each grade level. So what are we teaching in science and how are we measuring that over time? And taking a look at student performance levels in our Watertown assessments. And as the last bullet says, we're just waiting for the state guidance. But rather than just wait for them to tell us exactly what those standards are, we're taking a look at the curriculum as it exists. So we're ahead of the game a little bit there in terms of how we're going to revise our curriculum. Next, we'll look at the SAT, which is now called the SAT reasoning test. Because if you try to find out exactly, it used to mean Scholastic Aptitude Test back when I took it in 1986, I guess. But now it's the SAT reasoning test. And so we took a look at the reading, writing, and mathematics scores in Durg D again. So for our writing scores, we scored a 503, which was number 18 out of 24 in Durg D. As you can see, the state average was 500. And as you know, the high in an SAT when you take it is 800 points. So in Watertown, we have an average score of 503. That, again, that was an increase of 1 point, so we made a slight increase from 2013, and it's always good to see an increase even of 1 point. For our mathematics scores, we had an increase of 4 points from 2013. So we scored a 476, which is 24, that would be 23 out of 24 schools in the Durg because the state is in there. So you can see the state average is 500, and ours is a 476. But again, we made that modest increase of 4 points from our existing scores of 2013. In our reading scores, we made an increase of 11 points from 2013. We are at 22 of 24 schools in Durg D, and we scored a 492 there. You can see the state average is a 499 right above us. And you can see the high in our Durg. It's always interesting to look at the range in your Durg. So you can see that Clinton had a 583 with Windsor at a 453. So you can see the span of scores within our Durg D. Next steps for the SAT. Again, revising those course curricula are going to address all the skills in all the tests that we take. No matter if it's the SAT, no matter if it's CMT science, CAPT science, and the Smarter Balance assessments that we'll take for real this year when we take them starting in late April. So again, a next step for...
I have a comment. I don't know if you have this report, research bulletin handy.
The Durg report?
Yeah.
I don't have it. I can get in my envelope, but
It's okay.
I almost know that off the top of my head frighteningly.
And I was looking through it trying to see why Watertown was in the situation it was with the test scores. And I was looking over the various columns and the socioeconomic categories. Sure. And it didn't make sense when I was on page 7 because in the second to last and the third to last column, there's an error. Unless I'm wrong, it says percent non-single parent families, and then it says percent English home language 2004, and I think that's reversed from pages 6 and in the others. See the column headings?
Sure. Well, you know, that's certainly something we
I know
could...
it's not your document, but I just thought I'd
Yes.
point that out to you because when you read it, it really gives you a completely different picture of what the data is representing. Do you see what I'm saying?
And so your question is about home language
No.
and...
Take a look at 6 versus 7.
Sure.
And take a look at not the last column, but the second to last and the third to last columns.
So single-parent families...
It should be on 7 it says percent non-single parent. Non is in the wrong column. And the second to last column, on 6 it says percent non-English home. And on the
Sure.
7 it says English home language.
Right.
Follow what I'm saying?
Right. I think that maybe the column header might be wrong.
It is, yeah.
But the numbers are correct.
Right, so...
Sure.
Yeah, so you need to, I mean, that really, when you're trying to read the table, it gives you a completely different picture of what's...
You're right about that.
You know.
You're
So I just
correct.
thought I'd point that out to you.
Yeah, that's certainly something that when...
It's a state problem. I know you
Sure.
can do it. You know, but
Thank you for pointing that out.
Questions?
that's it.
Okay. If you don't mind, I'm going to there in case I need it. So board members received this in your packets. This is familiar for you, I'm sure, not to the rest of the audience. I wanted to start by taking you through how we came to this document, and the board is fairly familiar with this, but still just at least a snapshot. During the summer, after I came on board in July, we met with administrators from the entire district, every administrator that we had hired as of summer. We participated in what we call a retreat, and what we basically mean by that, unfortunately, it's probably not the retreat that you would think, where we went and hung out by the beach for a couple of days. We actually got together in a classroom at Swift over the course of a few days, 3 days. Ms. Parlato, me, Mrs. Brown, the business manager, Donna Rochester, the student services director, and also the student services supervisor, Kate Weingartner, and all of the administration. And we started our conversation around one question, and that was, what is the ideal Watertown Public Schools? And that was the focus for the entirety of that retreat. We looked at all of the data that we could gather, and I say could gather because one of the things I'd like to point out is, as you already saw in Ms. Parlato's presentation, this is not a good time to be a school district trying to make sense out of testing data, because the game is changing as we are in the middle of designing curricula and so on. So we have CMT, we have Smarter Balance, we have capped only for science and CMTs. So we looked at all of the scores. Everything that we were able to get our hands on, we looked at. We looked at grade distributions at the schools. We looked at information such as where students are accepted to college after they graduate from Watertown High School. And a lot of that legwork we did at my office before we were in the retreat with the administrators. So we spent 3 days talking about what would our school district look like if it were the ideal. And that is where the vision started to come from, those conversations. We then went through a process where we tried to narrow down the focus of our work into 4 categories. Can you just toggle to the next screen so I can just show those and I'll come back. So we spent a lot of time talking about what I would call a laundry list of all of the things that we would like to do and accomplish to be the ideal Watertown Public Schools. That took at least a day for each school to talk about, us to come back together and to talk about as a group and to start to prioritize. And basically all of those items came down into what we called these 4 categories: teaching and learning, systems, school and district culture, and communication. So that happened with the administrators. You can go back to the previous slide, please. Thank you. Fast forward to, we had a retreat with the Board of Education at the end of September. We carried out close to the same process, although as educators, obviously, we were more in depth with looking at scores and coming up with plans and so on, and that's why it took us 3 days. We did it over the course of about 4 hours with the Board of Education, did the same process on a shorter basis, lower level of data and so on that we went through. And, of course, the ideas that the board came up with actually meshed completely with what we had talked about as administrators. So all of the items that the board and Janet and I discussed at the board retreat were completely aligned under the 4 categories that we had come up with as administrators. So using both of those, I put together this vision for Watertown Public Schools. And if you look at it in its entirety, you see that part of what we are talking about is obviously that we are providing the best education that we can to the students that live in this district, hence wanting to be the first choice for excellence. We want our community to send us their students and to expect the best from us, and also that we are providing that engaging instruction and challenging students wherever they come to us, at whatever level they come to us, that we are challenging them to do their personal best. And you see some of that reflected in the vision that we saw from the high school also when they did the NEAS presentation a few board meetings ago. Also, we are looking to try to maintain the relationships we have with the community already and to build our relationships to be deeper. And the idea there being, what you see down in the core beliefs, that strong partnerships with the communities have a hand in having effective schools. So we vetted this vision as an administrative team. The board did the same. We took the feedback from both places and have come to this. I won't read it to you because I know everyone can read off of the screen. The other piece of that, as a part of this process, we had to get down to what we all believe as a school district. So what do we as administrators believe? What do teachers believe? What does the board believe? And this is where I should mention that I took the administrators through this process at the retreat. I took the board members through this process at their retreat. Our building administrators took the teachers through similar processes at the school level. And so this has been a two-way form of communication back and forth between the administrators at the building level and me, so that we had everybody on the same page. And so as you go through how do we become the ideal Watertown Public Schools, you glean information about what we believe about teaching and learning and the function of schools. And that's where you see what our district core beliefs are. That we have high expectations for students and for our staff, and that will lead us to higher student achievement. That, and you'll see this again on the strategic goals, that literacy and problem solving are essential components of learning and essential life skills. I'll talk a little bit more about that when I get to the goals. That from the culture aspect, if we develop caring and supporting relationships between and among all of us that work in the schools and the board and the community and the students, that we will set a positive stage for learning, that we are obviously working toward continuous improvement and improving the overall quality of each one of our schools and our district. And to be able to do that, we have to set realistic goals that challenge us and that we put the systems in place to achieve. And that is where you'll see the designation for the systems goals on the next part. And also that if we are collaborating and communicating well with our families, our school personnel, and the community at large, we will have more effective schools. So the first thing I'd like to point out about the goals, they are strategic goals. These are not what you sometimes see that people refer to as SMART goals. SMART standing for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. We have those style goals at the school level. So an example of a goal like that would be that we would want 70%, we would like to increase to 70% of the students taking AP biology in junior year to achieve a 3 or a better, 3, 4, or 5. That would be a SMART goal. These are strategic goals because we are talking about the district at large. And I wanted these goals to be such that everybody in the schools knows what they are and everyone in the community knows what they are. So if we were to put up goals that were in the SMART goal style, this would be 10 pages long because we would be looking at 5 different schools and what each of them is doing. So those kinds of goals are present in their school improvement plans, which dovetail to this district improvement plan. Again, that has been an ongoing two-way process between my office and the schools. So for teaching and learning, we are mostly looking at 2 things. One is literacy, and you see this, and I'll explain what this means a little bit more. To be able to write, produce, and speak grounded in evidence for a variety of purposes and audiences. If you think about that, that is a very large goal because it is about speaking, it is about writing, it is about reading, it's about all facets of literacy. And doing that grounded in evidence means that the students are able to take pieces of research, they're able to take poems, stories, conversations, interviews, anything they might be able to provide evidence from and to speak data. Even in math, that applies, that they are speaking in evidence when they are explaining how they did a word problem, for example. That is a key skill in anything you need to do in school and certainly in life. Likewise, under number 2, that they will be problem solvers and that they will persevere in solving problems. This again is talking about our goal to instill a intrinsic motivation, if you will, in students to persevere and to want to work hard enough to solve problems even when they are having trouble doing so. That is something we've talked about since the beginning of the school year, something I talked about at convocation. We were talking about instilling grit, the concept of grit into students, and persevering until they were able to meet their goals. So basically, at a ground level, they are mostly about literacy and math, if you really think about it, what you could drill them down to, but they apply across the curriculum. You need to be able to write and produce evidence-based theories in science. You need to be able to do it in social studies. You need to be able to do it in math. Likewise, you need to be able to solve problems across the board. And these are very 21st century skills in teaching and learning. So these are directly aligned to the Common Core. And notice they are not about preparing students to get a certain score on a test. These are about preparing students to do well at school, in life, and therefore to do well on a test. It's another reason that they are strategic goals. For systems, one of the things that we have found is that with the amount, I have to say this only in this perspective, it's about the only one I can come to for this, trying to put different systems in place. We've had a number of different people in my role, for example. And with each change in leadership comes changes to the systems that are in place. And at this point, we have decided that some of the systems we would like to work on most are things that if we don't look closely at will affect the entire district. Obviously, A is one of those things. We have completely turned around the way that we do the budget process. And we are in the middle of budget development as we speak. We had our first budget meeting with the school today. And we have rolled out a new way of doing the budget to the schools, a way that is directly tied to school and district improvement and principals looking closely at building level budgets to be able to explain how the money that they are looking to spend supports student achievement and school and district improvement goals. So that's a topic for another time, but that's the basis of the budget development plan. And from the district level, I am looking at the same with each one of the schools and across the board. And also, again, you see in our facilities meeting tonight, this is something we really need to look closely at, how we are maintaining these buildings, the safety and security issues that have been identified in some of the buildings, and that we ensure we are on a plan moving forward that will keep these buildings looking the way that they do now, which is going to require planning, very purposeful planning on our part to have a capital improvement mentality as we move forward. The school and district culture, this is a given that will provide a physically and emotionally safe and supportive environment. There are a number of goals that fall underneath of that at each one of the schools. And another one that we feel is very important from the entire district standpoint is communication. And I think that you can see that the way that I have been doing business as the superintendent since I have started speaks directly to this. This is why I am out at so many events in the community. I'm spending so much time in the schools. I'm working hard at being able to see the parents and get to know them, because we are trying to, as it says, engage in two-way communications. Sometimes what we do really well as a school district is just blast the information out. We keep sending information home. We put it on the website. We send the Blackboard Connect calls home. We send the flyers home. We are looking to turn our communications around and make it so that we are putting the information that we need to out there, but more importantly, that we are getting the information that we need to back in and responding to that. And that is where we are working very closely with a number of members of the community from the people at Town Hall. I've been working closely with Bob Scannell since he came on board. I was working closely with Chuck until Chuck left. We work very closely with Chief Larry Black, with Chief Gavalis. So even just some of those systems, again, kind of issues for communication, that we are changing the way that we do business. So, we have, full circle now, we have put these into effect, hopefully with board approval tonight, for this school year. I know that it is often typical that a superintendent will come and bring you 3-year goals. Might these turn into our 3-year goals? They might. But I felt if coming from where we were coming from, the amount of turnover that we've had in a number of places, that I wanted to focus on at least where are we going for this year, and how can I make sure that when we are here next year looking at the testing reports, for example, that hopefully we are starting to see that we are making progress. And there are so many things inherent in each one of these goals to bring us there. And you've seen that in Janet's report tonight, in Janet's curriculum committee report that we had a couple of meetings ago. We are full steam ahead in curriculum writing, in assessment inventories, in a tremendous amount of professional development that is needed in the district. So incremental change, at least, is what we're looking for. I don't think that I'm going to be able to stand here. I mean, I'd love to be able to say I stand here next year and I say we're 100% better across the board. That's not the way this works. We are running a huge system full of people and variables. And so by putting these into place and the many levels and activities and goals that are within each of them at the school level and from my office, I think that we will be in a place next year, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, where we will be looking at different strategic goals, because we will have so much of this work done already. And that's the reason I did not want to put out something for 3 years, because honestly, my hope is that we're able to take these goals one more level a year from now. Do you have any questions about how they were arrived at, the content, other things you feel like we should have spoken about that we haven't?
Madam Chairwoman. Dr. Carmel, I just wanted to comment on the process that you thought that it was a refreshing change for at least this board member, having gone through a couple of different iterations of goal setting over the last 3 years. So I commend you for that effort. I know that getting everyone together and having everyone stay focused and getting all those ideas out. What I found very fulfilling when the board went through that process was when, if you don't mind me sharing, when you put the photograph of the whiteboard in your office up. And we, as you said very succinctly a moment ago, that the information that the conclusions that we came to in our board retreat that night pretty much matched, almost like the way a zipper goes together with what the administration and the staff and faculty had come up with. So, good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Board members have comments for Dr. Cardamola or questions? Okay. Dr. Cardamola, I would just like to add, in addition to Berthel's comments, that during the board retreat, it was quite obvious that a lot of thought had been put into not only goal setting for the board members, but also taking into consideration each of our own skill level and personality. And I know that you also, as with your team, put a lot of thought into some team building activities and some collaborative things that really helped us move forward as well as a group. And I appreciate that as much as I appreciated going through the goal setting. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And to that end, I'll wrap up by saying that one of the things that we are continually talking about is having coherence in our systems, in our ways of thinking, that the board and I and my administrators and the faculty and staff that work in the buildings are all on the same page, that we're all working together, that everyone understands that these are the goals. They understand what their role is in the big picture to achieve these goals. And that when you look at the vision for Watertown Public Schools, that is the ideal. And you notice, if you tackle back one more time, that the way that we have composed this vision, it's not what we hope to be, even though it is what we hope to be. It's written as if it's in the present tense. And some of that is strategic in the way that if we all believe that this is who we can be by looking at it in the present tense, that is where we will get to. It won't continually be this fleeting thing that's just out of reach. We will get there sooner than later if everyone who works with us, all of our parents, everyone in the community understands that this is who we aim to be. Thank you. Yes, that concludes my report. I believe you've probably heard enough from me for one evening.
It was very informative. Thank you very much. Moving on to item J, report from the chairman. I have no report to share with you this evening. To item K, action items, adoption of items to be approved by consent. There was a vacancy that was established in this past month by the passing of Guy Bazzano. Is there a motion to approve Victor Vicenzi, Jr., to fill the vacant board position this evening?
Yes, Madam Chair. I move to nominate Mr. Victor Vincenzi to the Watertown Board of Education to fill a vacancy left by Mr. Guy Bazzano until November 3rd, 2015, in accordance with the Watertown Charter Code Section 2006 vacancies. A vacancy in the Board of Education shall be filled by appointment of the remaining members of such board for the unexpired term or until the next biennial election, whichever is sooner. If there is a biennial election before the expiration of the term of office of any person appointed to an elective office under the provisions of this section, such office shall be filled by the election of a person to fill that office for the unexpired portion of the term. In November of 2015, a candidate will be elected to fill the remaining 2 years of the term, which expires on November 7th, 2017.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. Could I have a second?
Madam Chairwoman, it's my honor to second that nomination.
Any discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair. Mr. Vincenzi is a former board member. He has a lot of years on the board when he served. He did a great job, and he will do a great job. Because of his experience, he'll hit the ground running. There won't be any learning curve.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. Are there any other comments? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Welcome to the Board of Education. Stand. Dick, we all look forward to working with you. And I also appreciate the commitment that you've made to this board right from the get-go, and your interest started immediately. So I thank you for that. And we are very thrilled to have somebody who also was elected twice for 2 terms in the year 2000 in this town, but somebody who's very well respected and as Mr. Lambert said, hits the ground running. So thank you very much, and we all look forward to working with you. Okay, next action item number 2, consideration of the approval of the 2015 schedule of meeting dates for the Watertown Board of Education. Is there a motion?
Madam Chairwoman, I move that the board approve of the 2015 schedule of meeting dates for the Watertown Board of Education as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Berthel. Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I second that.
Thank you, Mr. Nardella. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Action item number 3, consideration of the approval of the Board of Education strategic goals as presented for the 2014-2015 school year. Do I have a motion?
Madam Chairwoman, I move that the Board of Education approve of the strategic goals for 2014-2015 as presented by Superintendent Dr. Carnamola this evening.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Madam Chairwoman, I second that motion.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Moving on to item number 4, consideration of the approval of the acceptance of a gift. Do we have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that the Board of Education approve the acceptance of the generous gift from Buick GMC of Watertown of 5 new laptop computers with an estimated value of $1,700 to Watertown High School, and that a letter of thanks be sent to the donor.
Thank you very much. Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I'm glad to second that this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Nardella. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
I'd just like to point out that, in case there are people who don't know, GMC, Buick makes that donation to us pretty much every year, at least that I've been here, and so helpful at the high school. The primary reason they donate those laptops is for students in need who may not have the technology at home. And that is the primary purpose that those laptops are employed. So they are very helpful to us and very appreciative, and I know that Principal Jones is also.
Thank you. It's very generous of Buick GMC to do that for us. Have such a consistent level of support and giving to our schools is something we value very much and appreciate. And I'm sure we will echo that in our letter sentiments to them. Thank you. Moving on to item L. Are there any future agenda items or board member comments?
Madam Chair, through you. Madam Chair, I'd just like to take a moment this evening to congratulate one of my good friends and mentors, the Vice Chair of this board, Eric Berthel, who was elected to the State House last Tuesday. I really look forward to the amazing things you're going to do, Eric, and I wish you the best.
Thank you, Ray.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nadella. I second that comment very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We are very happy for you. We will miss you eventually,
Eventually, yeah.
but we're very happy for you. Are there any other board member comments?
Madam Chair, I also echo Ray's comments about Eric. Well-deserving, well-run campaign. He's a gentleman. We all know what we have here with Eric Berthel. I know that when he does go to the Capitol, to the State House, he's going to also hit the ground running. He knows a lot about a lot of things. He doesn't shirk his responsibilities. He does what he says what he does. He's the real package, and I'm very, very happy that he is one of us, and he will be going up there with every one of us cheering him on, and he knows what we need here in Watertown, especially on the educational side. So I think we're very lucky that he is going where he's going, and I'm sure we all wish him well.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. Are there
Thank you,
any
Tom.
other board member comments?
Through you, Madam Chair. I also want to wish you much happiness there as you take your new seat, and we are very happy for you, and I know you'll do a great job.
Just thank you, everyone, for those very kind words. And, I'm honored to be in a position to have been elected to serve in this capacity. And I know that my experience on this Board of Education, in part, has prepared me well for those next steps. So thank you again for your kind words, and onward and upward, I guess we'll say. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other board member comments or future agenda item suggestions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our second round of public participation. Do any members of the public wish to address the board this evening? Do any members of the public wish to address the board this evening? Seeing none, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chairwoman, I move that we adjourn.
Second?
I second that, Madam Chairwoman.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. We are now adjourned.